Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Om. Salutations to Bhagavan Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna's devotional teachings. We're taking the second aphorisms. First chapter, of course. He says, God alone is real and all else unreal. In the original it is, Ishwar hi Satya ar sab anitya. This God alone is real and all else is real. And this has been the biggest problem for thousands of years. Yeah, we can say the earliest recorded discussion was from Plato. He thought that there's a world which is an ideal world with ideal forms. And this world is a shadow. It started from there. And either people have been contradicting it, authenticating it, refuting it. They have been at it. Now, the moment we hear this aphorism, God alone is real and all else unreal. The moment we hear this, we have already divided. There is something called real here and God is unreal. Everything else is unreal. He has used the word Ishvara. God is that Ishvara, the God, is there within every one of us, in every being. Now here's that Ishvara, God, is real. And all else, but we do experience this world. Now for thousands of years, people have been discussing, as I said, what's a reality? It can be measured, it can be perceived, it can be experienced. So what they did was they had three categories. The object, search or find out or discover what's the nature of the object. Then find out or discover or search or analyze the nature of the instrument that sees the object, the senses and the mind. And then analyze and discover whatever the nature of the experience. When we look around, all these three things are all mixed and muddled. But there is a clear distinction. Philosophers have been divided amongst themselves regarding one of the three things. Take for instance, like in Zen Buddhism, you sit down and don't do anything and try to have an insight into the experience. What do you experience? And as you keep on having that insight, a kind of insight meditation or Zen meditation or whatever, you'll come to something called a satori, sudden realization. What? That the experience is all empty. Now, when you look at the object, the object, have a little change in that, have a different lighting or something like that, and the nature of that object changes. We see this world outside and we think, yes, it's tangible. Of course it's true. But this external world of object itself has got the touch of improbability. Or you can say probable. It is probable, like physicists like to say. It's probable. And there's also, in physics, there's something called the indeterminism. So these things are also embedded in physical theories. The surface level, we have one vision of things, objects. Go deeper and deeper and deeper, it changes. Or the molecular level, or the atomic level, or even down below, you got the quark level. Nobody has seen these things. We can infer them. Atoms, of course, electrons. But so there are these forces. All things are subject to forces, and they are constantly being molded by these forces. Whether it's gravity, whether it's strong or weak nuclear force, whatever. Lighting, this, that. So even if one of the three categories, the object, the instrument, the senses and the mind, and the intellect, and that experience, if it changes, the nature of the experience also changes. If this is changed, the nature of experience will change. When it comes to instruments, we understand that our senses understand this world. There is no doubt we have to use the senses, the five senses, or the seven senses. We know first they are limited. You cannot see better than an eagle or smell better than a dog. So your world is, these things are now becoming, you can say, infected with faults. There are a host of illusions, everyday illusions, that is the subject of the senses and the mind. Our senses are limited. So they are subject to also illusions. A long time back, I was reading a book with all the various illusions, visual illusions, auditory illusions, illusions of touch, illusions of all smell. There's a whole book on that. So then again, the nature of the experience changes. If there's a change in the object, the experience changes. If there's a change or the deformity in the instrument, that also changes the experience. So then what is real? God alone is real. Now, God in the sense of, you can see, it's not some bearded person sitting down in my heart or in our hearts. That has to be taken off. It has to be seen as consciousness. Consciousness is beyond even the experience. Though consciousness plays a part in the experience, in the mind and the senses, and even in the objects, because what happens is, as you said, God alone is real. Again, don't project it outside. Don't divide it here and all else. What do you mean all else? the experience, the objects, as well as the instruments. Now, when you say unreal, is it just an illusion? No. It's an appearance. And compared to that appearance, if you compare the appearance with the reality of God, then it makes perfect sense. So there was a question asked, Sri Ramakrishna was asked, this is why do we see this world like this? If it's all an illusion, repeated births in this world has given us firm conviction Sri Ramakrishna also says, when the mind dwells on the lower three centers of consciousness, this world appears like this. When the mind appears here, or in the sense rises here, then the world as this world is slowly dissolving. It dissolves and something else is replaced. So you must understand this reality of the world, what we talk about, has got multiple layers. If we stick to one and say, this is only what it is, then this is nothing but a ceaseless mass of energy, like Einstein showed. But we don't see that because our senses are limited. It is not possible for us to detect that ceaseless mass of randomness in this world. So we are bound. Now, it's very easy when you are sitting and talking like this, the world is real. But when those like who are in the conflict zone, who are in floods and famines and with terminal illnesses and this and that, then what? Oh my God. The world is real. Yeah. So you must understand that philosophically, it is easy to say, yeah, the experience. But if you're convinced of your own experience, then however great the danger comes, however, whatever circumstances, you will be unaffected. Now, everything is tied. The experience, the senses and the mind and the objects, they are tied to one important factor. That is the sense of I. It's the ego. It's that ego that says, I exist. No doubt about it. Now, if you replace that I with God, that's what the whole thing is. So as long as this I exists, I in the sense, and it's not very easy to eradicate it. Try it. So Sri Ramakrishna says, make that rascal I the servant I of God. That is the way to come out of the whole thing. Then you will see that God as consciousness, as reality, exists everywhere. In that case, then, everything becomes real. Then what is unreality? That which takes you away from that consciousness is unreal. That is the nature of the ego, that's the nature of illusion. In the highest states, like Sri Ramakrishna and all these, they used to experience everything as God. Yes. My favorite example is Swamiji was revolting against the idea of everything is Brahman. And he was young, and he used to read the Ashtavakra Gita to Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna insisted that and he didn't like that idea, that world is Maya and all these things. And so one time he's saying, these sages, they must have been crazy. So he closes the book and he goes out and sitting down with his friend, Hazra. Hazra was a great character. He used to sit outside and pretend he was greater than Sri Ramakrishna. He had also the notion that he's an incarnation. So Swamiji goes there and they're both laughing and they're discussing. See, this pot is God and this is God. And Sri Ramakrishna comes, what are you laughing? He touches Swamiji. And he says, in an instant, he sees actually everything is Brahman, that God. So he's saying for 3 continuous days he was in that state. He went home, it continued. That state, of course, there's a carriage rolling down the streets towards him. The horse will toss him off. The hoofs might kill him. He didn't feel like moving out of the way because he's saying the same stuff that the carriage was made of, I'm made of the same stuff. And then, after 3 days, his mind comes down just a little. And then he sees the whole world in a dream-like fashion. He even goes to bump his head against an iron railing to see whether it's a real or it's a dream. Well, the biographers, he doesn't say anything about whether he knocked his head on it or not. This is the reality. So what the teaching in this aphorism is trying to make us understand, that we are seeing this world conjured up by the sense of I. That is unreal. Tear the veil, look down under the layers, and you'll see that is the reality. So this is emphasizing God alone is real. Shankaracharya also says, Brahma Satyam. Brahman is reality, truth. Jagat Mithya. The world is false. Brahman is real or true, the world is false, and the Jiva is none other than Brahman. So when you come down to the stage of oneness, then all illusions go. So in this world of diversity, what makes, it's that ego that is making for diversity. The instruments, the objects, the experience, etc., etc. You keep on analyzing it, Now, over the years, there are these philosophies, especially in India, oh my God, they try to analyze what is the nature of error. Why do our perceptions are attended with this error? And we won't go into this because it is huge. Just for the record, there is something called asatyati, satyati, anirvachaniya kyati, anyata kyati, asatkyati, satkyati, etc. Now, how do we perceive and what is the error? Because they also were sincerely trying to search for truth or reality. But where does the error come in? And how the mind or something is deflected? So they kept on searching for it. And there are multiple doctrines in all the systems of philosophy, especially in India. They really went deep into it. For one thing, you cannot dismiss it outright. As Shankaracharya said, this is a transactional reality. It's a relative reality. It has an existence as long as one is experiencing it. And then when you start meditating, see, when you want to analyze the experiencer or the nature of the ego, whatever, on the ego being subject to error in its perceptions, as you keep on meditating on it, you'll go deeper and deeper, and at the deeper layers you'll find the error does not exist. And this transactional reality, which is appearing only on the surface, disappears. So this is the second aphorism, that God alone is real. And just to make it a little more, he could have stopped there, Sri Ramakrishna. God alone is real. Why was it necessary? And everything else is unreal. Yeah. It's understood. When it's a proposition, God alone is real, then understand that. It means that everything else is. But just to emphasize this, so are our lives real or unreal now? Does everything that we do is all an illusion? Like I said, if there's a slight change in one of the factors, this object or the instruments or this, suppose there's a change in my memory, everything else is changed. So these are transitory, it's called. When Sri Ramakrishna uses the word anitya, the anitya technically means transitory. And Ishwar is Sat, real. It is non-transitory. Then when you say, oh, my experience is real, now go through the entire timeline of your life. Go down to the nature of your experience and see if you have that memory. You will have memory. Most of the memories have gone. Some of the memories are still there. All the traumatic, all the crazy things, that is there. You won't. That won't go. So when you say, oh my God, what happened to all these things? They're all gone. So what is the nature of your experience? Gone? That even this will go. So this is how they analyze it. They it's not just intellectual. They meditate on that experience, and that experience. So Sri Ramakrishna, did he go through all this intellectual, you can say, philosophical discussion? No, no, no. He never went through all this. What did he do then? He went directly and realized it. So these are words out of his own realization. There is no philosophical disputes in the gospel or in the great master or divine play of Sri Ramakrishna. There's hardly any philosophical dispute. Then later on the philosophers come and they start disputing it. I see it, he says, directly. So these are direct experiences. So the world, what is this world? So real, so real. Yes, why don't you go outside outside the earth, go towards Mars, or go towards Jupiter or Saturn, or go towards the edge of the solar system and see how this looks, how real it looks. Oh my God, what's that? Then you go further on, and earth as it exists will disappear. So as you expand your horizon, as you expand your consciousness, what you thought was real, solid, has disappeared. How do you expand your vision? How you would expand your consciousness? By understanding the reality that is within you is that God. Then your life and all that thing. What about me? What about this earth, this beautiful earth? So wonderful. Yeah, sometimes when I get, I use my imagination, of course, and then I said, suppose when I'm feeling kind of agitated with something I've heard or seen or something like that. And there's plenty of agitation around. So I kind of zoom out of earth and I see the earth and I go zooming out. It's a kind of experiment. I started with the experiment. Then I used to see that. Like Carl Sagan says, a small blue dot. We're there. And then you zoom out even more further, and then that dot has disappeared in that vast, swirling galaxy. And this is one galaxy here, and there are so many other galaxies. Oh my God. There are super clusters of galaxies. And there are spaces between these super clusters. And where it ends, everything is expanding, and it's a crazy thing. So your idea of reality is completely then dismissed. What is this? How vast it is. This vastness comes when you understand God alone is real. The vastness comes in your own consciousness. And then that which you thought was real has now become insignificant, unreal, transitory. Okay. The third, so much for real, unreal. The third is God is the beloved. It's called nectar, elixir. The devotee is the lover, the enjoyer. Oh my God. Yeah, I was just thinking on this and said, The original Ishvara, that is, it's translated as God of Ishvara. Again I said, I trying to remind you, Ishvara is that indwelling consciousness in all beings, in every being, not only human beings, in every beings. Now, of course, human beings are the only dominant. We've killed off everything. We are almost a little is left. So he's saying Ishvara, the God, is the beloved. Now this translation, it's okay, but if you go deep in that, he's saying Rasa Swarup. Swarup is the nature of Rasa. Now what is this Rasa? Okay, just remember this word Rasa. R-A-S-A. Not Rasam. That's a spicy hot soup. Rasa. Bhakta, the devotee, is Rasik, one who enjoys that Rasa. Okay, so you got that. So though it is translated lover, enjoyer, beloved, nectar, elixir and all. In the gospel, Sri Ramakrishna had gone to the Brahmo Samaj. And it was a big movement then, confined mainly to the city of Calcutta, Kolkata. And he had gone because he liked to go around, and so one of the preachers is saying, God is dry. Let us through our love make him wet, make him sweet. So Sri Ramakrishna, what is that fool saying? God is dry. It's like saying, oh, in my uncle's stable, there are many cows. You don't keep cows in the stable. You keep cows in the cow shed. Then somebody quips, that means there are no cows and there are no horses also. So Sri Ramakrishna, what is the fool saying? This is the problem with preachers. They will say something. So Sri Ramakrishna says, the Vedas say God is the nature of rasa. Sweetness, you can say. Now, it's not just sweetness. And this is one of the reasons why I bought that part of that Vedas, which will speak of that sweetness. So in one of the Upanishads, I'll quote the entire thing. In the beginning, all this was but the unmanifested Brahman. The Brahman was not manifest, not perceptible. From that emerged the manifested. This manifested world has emerged from that unmanifested Brahman. Why unmanifested? Because we cannot see, taste, touch, smell. But when it manifests and we can see, taste, touch, smell, all that. That Brahman thus created itself by itself. Therefore, it is called a self-creator. That which is known as a self-creator is verily the source of joy. God is a source of joy, that creator. One becomes happy by coming in contact with that joy. So when you come in contact with the reality, you get that joy. Then, this is an important one. Who indeed will inhale, who will exhale, if this bliss be not there in the supreme space within the heart, so your life itself will be impossible if this rasa is not there within you. Saying, this rasa indeed enlivens everything. Then he's saying, he expands, for whenever an aspirant gets fearlessly established in this unperceivable, bodiless, inexpressible, and unsupporting, that is without support, Brahman, that aspirant reaches the state of fearlessness. For whenever the aspirant creates a slightest difference in it, there's a difference, that aspirant is smitten with fear. So there's always, whenever there's a duality, there's a fear. Where there's a non-duality, it's the state beyond fear. So this here is saying, raso vaisaha, it is saying, it's the nature of bliss, the joy. That bliss, that joy, that is the nature of Ishvara, God. And that God dwells in every being. It enlivens all of us. Without that joy, we will not be able to even live. Saying, who will inhale, who will breathe in, who will breathe out, if this bliss, this joy, this rasa is not there. So the source of your life and all activities depends on that Ishvara, that God which is within. And that is the source of joy. That is the meaning of rasa. So when he says Ishwar, he rasa swarup is the nature of this rasa, that joy, that bliss. People say, we don't see God, so God does not exist. Go and find out what enlivens you. Go and find out what makes you live and breathe and exist. That is the most perceived thing. In the previous aphorism, is saying the nature of the experiencer beyond the I, that consciousness, that is of the nature of bliss. That is the nature of joy. That is the nature of God. And the devotee, what does the devotee do? Enjoys that bliss. Only we do it unknowingly. So people who say, oh my God, we don't see it here. Do you feel it? Because Vedanta is trying to understand you and God, etc., from a very deeper level, and they remove all the distinctions in the final analysis. There's no distinction there. But where the distinction remains, the soul, the individual soul, enjoys that bliss. Yes. And in many of the Upanishads, they give an example of a wife and a husband locked in an embrace, where they do not know anything which is inside out, me, you, all these things have gone. The intensity of that love, that embrace, gives us a feeling of, this is how the soul, individual soul, experiences the bliss that is God. So what's the nature of God? Rasa. Later on, music and dramatology and aesthetics and all this, they brought out all the various combinations and permutations of this doctrine of rasa. But from the standpoint of the Vedic, God is the rasa. That is, God is the bliss, the joy that is within. If you feel bliss, you're feeling God, that Ishvara. You're feeling your own deepest self. And so how do you approach that? How do you get more of this? Well, through bhakti, through devotion, through love. Because love unifies. Everything else divides. So love is a great unifying factor. And love is always attended with bliss. If you love something, you will get bliss. That's why people get bliss in all crazy things also. Because they love that, they'll get some little bliss. That bliss, that joy is this rasa. That is Ishvara. As you go down deep inside, you will find there it is. It is the most tangible thing. It is experienced at every moment of your life, a breath. He's saying, who will breathe in and who will breathe out? If this bliss was not filling that supreme space in the heart, this indeed enlivens people. So your existence is because of that. So you go to that source, going back to the source. So it's a very profound, I could go on and on and on, but you get the idea. The idea of projecting God outside has to be brought in, within. Put it in there, and then a lot of questions regarding existence and consciousness disappear. We'll stop here for today. We'll take this up again after 2 weeks. Remember, it's on the 2nd and the 4th Saturday, Wednesday that we have this. Friday, 7 p.m., self-knowledge, Atma Bodh, 7 p.m. And Thursday, tomorrow, towards the goal supreme, Swami Brahmatmananda will discuss this wonderful book. It's like a manual for spiritual aspirants. Sunday, 10 a.m., the topic of the talk is the mighty yoga. And we have Mother's Children, of course, 9:50. Okay, no questions. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.